No condition is permanent. The sun yields to rain, and every field answers in its time. Your name is Emeka. You have always known what your name means. Your father told you the morning of your 7th year, crouching beside you in the dust outside the family compound, his hands smelling of palm wood and iron earth. Great deeds, he said. That is what you are. That is what you will become. He did not say it gently. He said it plainly, as a fact already confirmed by the universe. You are 19 years old. You live in a village at the edge of the Niger Delta, where the land does not know whether it wants to be water or earth, and has settled unhappily on being both. The mangrove roots reach into the brown river like the fingers of old men lowering themselves into a bath. The air smells of wet soil and smoke and the particular sweetness of palm oil cooking. You have known this smell every morning of your life. You do not notice it anymore, the way you do not notice the weight of your own legs. The village is called Umu Easy. It is not large, 40 compounds, perhaps 50, depending on the season, and who has married and who has built. Your family compound sits near the eastern edge, close enough to the river that in the wet season the ground outside the gate turns soft. Your mother complains about the mud on her cooking stones every year. She has been complaining about it for as long as you can remember. You have never once seen her do anything about it. Your mother's name is Ngozi. She is a small, broad-shouldered woman with a voice that carries across 3 compounds when she decides it should. She laughs at things other people do not find funny and goes silent at things that would make others laugh. You love her with wholehearted simplicity, as if love had never learned to question itself. Your brother's name is Chidi. He is 15. He is taller than you already, which irritates you, and he knows it irritates you, which irritates you more. He has your father's cheekbones and your mother's stubbornness, and a habit of asking questions that have no good answers, and then waiting patient as a heron for you to admit it. You spend a portion of each day wanting to hit him. You would do anything for him. These 2 things are not in conflict. And then, there is your father. His name is Okonkwo, a name common in Igbo country shared by many men, though none quite like him. 51 years old, a carver of ritual masks. His hands are always slightly dark with pigment, the grooves of his knuckles stained in colors that no amount of river water fully removes. He is not a tall man, but he occupies space with effortless authority, as if stature had little to do with it. When he enters a room, the room reorganizes itself around him. He carves the masks that speak at the Mamanwu ceremonies, the masks that carry the voices of the ancestors. He has done this since his own father taught him, and his father's father before that. It is a sacred work. The village knows this. Your father knows this. You have known this since before you had words for knowing. What you also know, what sits between you and your father like a stone neither of you has chosen to move, is that you will not be the next carver. Your hands are a farmer's hands. Both of you know this. The soil knows this. You can coax yam from ground that has given up on yams. You can read the wet season coming 3 days before the clouds arrive. You have a feeling for the land that your father has never had, and he has always respected that in a quiet way. But the masks, he placed the tools in your hands when you were 10, and watched your face and saw what was not there, and he put the tools down and did not mention it again. Chidi has the hands for it. You have both known this for 2 years. Your father has not yet said so out loud. This is the argument you had 3 days ago, not about the masks exactly, about what the masks mean, about the ancestors who speak through them, about whether the ceremonies still carry weight when the arrow traders come through the villages, and the men with the iron collars follow behind them, and whole families stop existing between one market day and the next. Your father looked at you across the cooking fire, and his face did something you could not read, and he said, "The ancestors do not stop speaking because men stop listening." You said, "And if the men are gone?" He did not answer. He went inside. You sat by the fire alone, and the fire burned down, and you went to sleep with the absolute confidence that morning would resolve nothing. That was 3 days ago. This morning you woke before the village. You went to the river, as you always do, to check the yam lines you set yesterday along the bank where the soil is richest. The mist was still on the water. The birds had not started. Your brother was supposed to come with you, but he was still sleeping, so you went alone. You did not say goodbye to your father. There was nothing to say. You would be back before the cooking fire was lit. You would be back before anything. The forest path to the river runs for perhaps 400 steps through a stand of old Iroko trees. You know every root of it. You could walk it in full darkness, which you have done more than once, in the seasons when the night fishing is good and the river is generous. You are halfway along it when the birds stop. Not immediately, a breath after. The forest had been waking around you, the weaver birds in the high branches, the unseen rustling in the undergrowth, the general low conversation of a world going about its morning. And then it did not. It stopped with the unanimity of a decision made by something much larger than birds. You stand still on the path. The Iroko trees rise on both sides of you, their trunks wider than 3 men standing with their arms out. The morning light is still gray and flat. The mist has come off the river and moved inland, and it sits in the gaps between the trees like something waiting. You hear nothing. You look back toward the village. You look forward toward the river. There is no movement anywhere that you can see. The first man comes out of the trees to your left, then 3 more, then 6, then you stop counting. They are Aro. You know it from the marks on their faces and the way they move and the iron and rope in the hands of the men at the back. You have heard about the Aro Chukwu your entire life. Every village along this stretch of the Delta has heard about them. They come from the north and the east with trade goods and with God. Their oracle, Ibini Ukpabi, which they say speaks the will of the Supreme Being, and which sometimes, it is said, devours men whole. And they come with men who collect what the oracle demands in payment. You understand this in an abstract way, as something that only happens in other places. The man who reaches you first is not large. He has a long face and calm eyes, and he does not look like what you imagined, which was something with the shape of violence already built into it. He looks like a traitor. He is a traitor. This is the thing you will take a long time to understand, that what is happening to you is, to the men doing it, simply commerce. You run. You run 4 steps before the rope takes your ankle, and the ground comes up and hits you, and the Iroko roots are against your face, and the mist is in your mouth, and someone's knee is in the small of your back, and your arms are being pulled behind you at an angle that makes the world go briefly white. You struggle incessantly, and you only stop when your body makes that decision without consulting you. They take you back through the forest, not toward the village, the other direction. When you cry out, one of the men behind you says something in a dialect you half understand. Something about the price of noise. You go quiet. Your wrists are bound with cord that has been used many times before and has hardened with the memory of it. You think about your father, about the fire burning down, about going to sleep with the absolute confidence that morning would resolve nothing. Well, morning has resolved something, just not what you expected. They bring others to the group as the morning goes on, men from your village and men from villages you do not know, moving in a line that grows longer as the sun rises and the mist burns off, and the day becomes itself. You look for Chidi in the line. You do not find him. This is either a relief or the worst thing you have ever felt, and for a long time you cannot determine which. You find him at the coast. The place they bring you to is called a barracoon. You do not know this word yet. You will learn it in the weeks ahead, the way you will learn many words, by having them pressed into you by circumstance until they leave a mark. It is a low structure of mud and timber at the edge of the ocean, behind a wooden palisade that faces the sea. There are perhaps 80 people inside. More arrive across the days that follow. You lose count. You lose track of days with a speed that surprises you. The light comes and goes, and the heat rises and falls, and the guards bring water twice a day and food once, and the time between these things becomes its own kind of time, with no before or after, only now and the next now. Chidi is there. He is in the corner nearest the palisade wall, sitting with his knees pulled up, and when you find him, he does not speak for a long time. He just puts his forehead against your shoulder and breathes. You put your hand on the back of his neck the way your mother used to when you were sick. You do not speak either. There is nothing to say that the silence does not already contain. He is 15. You look at him and think, he has not been initiated yet. He is not yet, by the reckoning of your village, a man. The thought lands in you and sits there like something too heavy to move. There are white men at the barracoon. You have seen white men before. Traders pass through occasionally, and there are stories, always stories. But you have not been this close. They do not look the way the stories made them sound. They look ordinary, tired mostly, some of them sick. One of them, the one who seems to be in charge, wears a coat beaten ragged by the wrong climate. He moves through the barracoon with a kind of administrative briskness, looking at people the way your father looks at wood before he decides where to cut. He is Portuguese. His ship is in the bay. Its name, painted on the hull in letters you cannot read, is the Nossa Senhora de Conceição. She is a slaving vessel out of Lisbon, bound for Saint-Domingue via the Middle Passage, carrying a human cargo that the ship's manifest will record as goods. You do not know any of this yet. You know only the ship, the shape of it in the bay through the gaps in the palisade, larger than anything you imagined a floating thing could be. The Igbo have a phrase for the ocean, Mmiri Oji, the dark water. And another older phrase that your grandmother used, the water that eats people. You grew up 20 minutes from the river and spent your life being told not to go near the dark water. Now the dark water is right there, and the ship is on it. And you understand with a completeness that does not require explanation what happens next. You think about your father, about the masks, about the ancestors who speak through the masks, and whether they can speak across this much distance, across dark water, across the thing that is coming. The night before you board, Chidi asks you if you are afraid. You tell him no. This is the first lie you have ever told him that he did not immediately see through. He nods. He believes you. You watch him believe you and you think, I will carry this for him. Whatever comes, I will carry it and he will think I am not afraid. And maybe that will be enough. And maybe that will be enough. The hold of the Nossa Senhora de Conceição is 5 feet high and black as the inside of a closed fist. They put you on wooden shelves and chain your right ankle to the man beside you, and his left ankle to the man beside him, and so on along the shelf until the chain runs out of people. You are given 18 inches of width. You know this because you can feel the bodies on either side of you, and the space between your shoulders and theirs is not enough to place a hand flat. The smell hits you before anything else. It is the smell of 200 bodies in an unventilated space in the heat of the Atlantic, and it gets worse over the days that follow, and then worse again, and then reaches a level that your mind simply stops registering because it has no other choice. The ship moves on the second day. You feel it before you understand it. The hold shifting, the chain singing a low note, the darkness tilting one way and then finding a new angle and staying there. The sound of the ocean against the hull is enormous. The water that eats people. You can hear it eating. Chidi is not on your shelf. You know he is in the hold. You saw them take him below, but you cannot find him in the dark, and calling out brings the sound of boots on the hatch above, and then silence. You learn quickly which sounds bring boots and which sounds they ignore. The sickness comes on the 4th day. It starts with the man 2 bodies to your left. By the 2nd week, it has moved through the shelf with the thoroughness of a fire moving through dry grass. The flux, you will learn this word too, takes men fast or slow, and there is no pattern to which it chooses. The fast ones are, in the pitiless order of that hold, the luckier ones. The slow ones lie in what the ship produces, motionless, helpless, unable to meet your eyes. You stop looking. There is a point past which witnessing becomes its own kind of cruelty. They bring the dead up through the hatch every morning. You hear the splash. You count the splashes. You stop counting at 11. On the days when the weather is good, they bring some of you up to the deck. This is not kindness. A dead cargo earns nothing. They make you move, jump, dance. They gesture at what they want. And they pour seawater over you, and some of the men eat the sight of the sky with their eyes like men who have been starving for the thing that cannot be eaten. You look for Chidi on the deck. Some days you find him. Some days you do not. On the deck, on a clear day in what must be the 4th week, you see a man jump. He is from the Gold Coast. You have heard him speak in a language you do not share, but his face has been near yours in the hold for weeks, and is as familiar now as any face you have known. He goes over the rail without sound, without ceremony, between one moment and the next. The sailors shout. They do not go in after him. You stand at the rail for a moment and look at the place where he went in, and the Atlantic is simply the Atlantic, gray-green, enormous and indifferent, and it shows you nothing. He chose that. You understand why. You will not. Not because the hold is bearable, but because Chidi is somewhere in the hold below your feet and you are not willing to leave him to find out what happens next alone. You go back below. The crossing takes 41 days. In the hold there is no counting. There is only the chain against your ankle and the sound of the sea and the particular darkness that is different from all other darkness, because it is full of people and their sounds and what the body produces when the body has given up trying to be dignified. And beneath all of it, underneath everything, a thread you hold on to without deciding to hold on to it. The face of your father. Not the face from the argument, not the face across the cooking fire saying what he said about the ancestors. The face from before, crouching in the dust beside you when you were 7 years old. His hands smelling of palm wood, saying the words that were supposed to be a promise about who you would become. You hold that face in the dark. You do not let it go. Saint-Domingue arrives as a smell before it arrives as a sight. The hatch opens and the air comes down and it is hot, hotter than the hold, which you would not have believed possible, and wet and green and alive with the smell of vegetation so dense it has its own weather. After 41 days of the hold smell, this air is so different that the men around you make sounds, involuntary sounds, the sounds the body makes before the mind catches up. They bring you up in groups. The port is a place called Cap Francais, the capital, the jewel of the colony, a city of white colonnades, sugar money, and flies. You see almost none of it. You are taken from the ship to a yard enclosed by a low stone wall and made to stand in a line while men walk along the line looking at you with the specific attention of men estimating value. They make you open your mouth. They look at your teeth. They press your arms and your chest. One man pinches the muscle above your knee and nods and writes something in a ledger. You look at a point above his head and you go somewhere inside yourself, somewhere small and still, and you wait for it to be over. They separate you from Chidi here. It happens fast. A transaction, a gesture, and Chidi is moving with a group going left while you are moving with a group going right, and you shout his name. You shout it once, fully, without thinking, and he turns and finds your face in the crowd, and his expression does something that you will spend years trying to forget, and years more trying to remember precisely. The yard empties. The sun is enormous and white, and it beats down on the stone with a heat that has no mercy in it. You do not know where Chidi goes. You will look for him in every face that carries a resemblance. You will listen for his voice in crowds. You will sometimes, in the early mornings before the bell rings, allow yourself to believe that somewhere on this island, he is alive. You choose to believe this, deliberately. The plantation they take you to is called Habitation Renard. It sits in the hills above the plain, 2 hours by cart from the port, and it grows sugar cane. The cane is everywhere. It lines the road on both sides, tall and dense and moving in the wind, with a sound that is nothing like the sound of the Niger Delta bush and everything like it, somehow. The overseer's name is Gaston Mercier. He is a small man with red-brown skin that has been in the Caribbean sun for 20 years and has reached a kind of accommodation with it. He is not the worst of what you will encounter on this island. He is not the best. He is a man doing a job in a system that has made the job ordinary. You are given a number. You are given a name in French. They call you Emile. You do not answer to Emile for 3 weeks. Then you answer to it because the alternative, you have learned, involves the long cane rod that Mercier carries and uses with board efficiency, which does not make it hurt less. The work is the cane. It begins before light and it ends after dark, and between the beginning and the ending. There is the cane and the machete and the heat and the dust that the cane produces when you cut it, a fine white dust that coats your lungs by midday and your eyelashes and the creases of your palms. You were a farmer. You know the ache of field work in your shoulders and your lower back. This is not that. This is the same motion repeated until the motion is all there is, until you are not a person doing work, but work being done by something that used to be a person. There is a woman in the quarters who came from the Fon people of Dahomey. Her name is Adjoa. She has been here 6 years and she speaks 4 languages now. Fon, Igbo, enough French to navigate, and a Creole that is growing on this island under the pressure of necessity. She teaches you words. She teaches you which rules will kill you and which ones can be bent. She teaches you that the mountains in the north, blue and distant above the cane, are where the Maroons live. The ones who ran, the ones who made it. The ones who have been free up there for 20 years while the colony pretends they don't exist. You look at the mountains and you think, not yet. Not with Chidi's location unknown. Not with your body still too new to this heat, this work, this place. Not yet. But the mountains are there. They do not move. There is a man in your quarter who knew your village, not well. He is Igbo, but from a different clan, 3 days' walk from Umuez, but he knew the name of it. And when you say the name aloud, his face becomes briefly unguarded, raw with the recognition of somewhere irretrievable. He is 30 years old, 4 years in this place, tight-lipped about home. His name was Obiora. Here he is called Jules. You sit with Jules in the evenings after the bell, in that narrow strip between work and sleep. He gives you what you need to survive. You give him the delta, the mangroves, the wet season breaking after months of heat, and he receives it with his eyes closed, head back against the wall, starved and grateful. The weeks pass. The cane grows and is cut and grows again. The heat does not vary. The bell does not vary. Mercier does not vary. You learn the rhythms of the place the way you learned the rhythms of home, not by choosing to, but by being inside them long enough that the body starts to keep time on its own. The night is clear. It is the dry season now. You have learned to tell it by the quality of the dark. The dry season brings clear nights on this island, nights where the sky opens up above the cane fields and shows you everything. You are outside the quarter, not permitted technically, but Mercier is in the main house, and the night guard is on the other side of the compound, and you have learned in the past months which silences are safe and which are not. You are sitting with your back against the wall, your legs out in front of you, your hands in your lap, and above you the sky is open and full and enormous. You look up. You find it without looking for it, which is how you have always found it. The 3 stars in a line, slightly tilted with the fainter cluster above. Your father showed it to you when you were 6 years old. You were lying on the ground outside the compound. You remember the smell of the grass, the particular damp warmth of the Niger Delta night, and he put his finger up against the sky and traced the line between the 3 stars and said, "Those ones." Those ones have always been there, before your grandfather's grandfather, before the village, before the river. Those ones were there, and they will be there after everything we know is gone. You did not understand what he meant. You were 6. You nodded as if you did. You understand now. You are 4,000 miles from the Niger Delta. You are on an island whose name you had never heard 1 year ago, in a quarter that smells of other people's exhaustion, with a number instead of a name and a language you are learning under duress, and a brother whose location you do not know. They have taken from you in the past 12 months, more than you have words for. But the stars are the same stars. The sky belongs to no one. The sky is not in any ledger. It arches over Habitation Renard, and over the mountains where the Maroons live in their high, free camps, and over the ocean that brought you here, and, somewhere beyond that ocean, over a village at the edge of the Niger Delta, where a man who carves ritual masks is sitting, perhaps, in front of a fire that is burning down. He is there. He does not know where you are, but he is there. Chidi is somewhere on this island under this same sky, and the ancestors do not stop speaking because men stop listening. Your father said that, and you were angry when he said it, and you sat by the fire and went to sleep certain that morning would resolve nothing. Morning resolved nothing, but the night keeps giving you this. Emeka, great deeds. Not yet. Not tonight. But the mountains are still there, blue and dark above the cane. And you are still here, still Emeka, still the son of Okonkwo and Ngozi, still the brother of Chidi. And morning will come and the bell will ring and the cane will need cutting, and none of that is nothing. You look at the stars. The stars look back. And somewhere in the hills, in the high, free camps that the colony pretends do not exist, there are fires burning. You were there. Between 1501 and 1867, an estimated 12.5 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic in what historians call the Middle Passage. Fewer than 11 million survived the crossing. Of those who did not survive, the majority died of dysentery, smallpox, and dehydration in the holds of ships designed to carry as many human beings as possible in conditions that the ship's own physicians frequently recorded as unsurvivable. The Igbo people of the Niger Delta were among the most heavily trafficked of all West African groups. The Arochukwu Confederacy, a powerful Igbo trading network centered on the oracle at Arochukwu, controlled much of the interior slave trade in the region from the 17th century onward. Historians estimate that the Aro were responsible for the movement of tens of thousands of enslaved people to coastal trading posts each decade at the height of the trade. Saint-Domingue, the western third of the island of Hispaniola, now the nation of Haiti, was the most profitable colony in the 18th century world. By the 1780s, it produced roughly 40% of Europe's sugar and more than half of its coffee. This extraordinary wealth was built entirely on enslaved labor. The colony imported enslaved Africans at a rate that killed them faster than they could reproduce. Historians estimate that by 1789, 2/3 of the enslaved population of Saint-Domingue had been born in Africa. The death rate on sugar plantations was such that the trade required constant replenishment. In 1791, 7 years after the events of this episode, the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue rose in the largest and most successful slave revolt in human history. The Haitian Revolution, led by figures including Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe, lasted 13 years. On the 1st of January, 1804, Haiti became the first black republic in the world, and the only nation in history founded by formerly enslaved people who freed themselves by force. The 3 stars in a line that Emeka's father showed him are the Belt of Orion. They are visible from both West Africa and the Caribbean. They have been visible from both places for longer than any human civilization has existed. History is full of moments like this. If this one moved you, subscribe, so you don't miss the next one. A thumbs up helps more than you might think. And leave a comment. Tell us which moment in history you'd like to step into next, or simply that you were here. Every voice matters. This is You Are There. We'll see you in history.